Hey folks, today I'm going to bring you another endgame farming strategy. This time it's going to be more focused on getting items. So this will be useful for both MG and COF players. It's going to be especially useful if you are interested in exalted items with multiple T7s and rare uniques and stuff like that. And the way we're going to go about that is trying to proc the imprints as much as possible, and that's going to be the strategy. Anyway, if you do like this sort of thing, please consider leaving a like on the video, and I'll keep doing them. Let's jump into it. The basis of the strategy is going to be to try and get as much value as possible out of the Weaver tree. We're going to juice some of the nodes that have the most synergy with the strategy that I think best fits with it. And there are a lot of really powerful nodes in the Weaver tree, specifically the imprint nodes. You can imprint stuff like rare uniques, and you can get a bunch of things like red rings. But where I think the strategy really shines is getting exalts with multiple exalted affixes. Ideally, you're going to want multiple tier 7s. This is all I have for a helm right now. My helm is terrible. What you're going to want to imprint if you're farming exalts is something with very high FP, because the FP is transferring with the imprints. You're also going to want as many tiers as possible, ideally tier 7. Anyway, let's talk about some of the different synergies in the this Weaver tree setup. So the first thing that we have is caches. So you can see the synergy around caches. Lost caches drop an additional exalted item in your echoes. So we are going to be farming lost caches. So this will be proccing every time. So it's a significant amount of generic exalted items. We're also going to be getting the loot lizard. So we're getting a lot of loot lizard. We're also going to be proccing this lost cache at 6%. And then further with the caches, we also have the synergy with the loot lizard because it's doing the loot lizard from the cache here. Then we have the guaranteed unique item. So because we're doing so many loot lizards, this is useful. And we have loot lizards, champions have a chance to spawn the blue or green loot lizards. And we're also doing synergy with champions too. So this goes very well with that strategy. And then finally with the loot lizards, because we are spawning so many, they are also dropping a bunch of exalted items too. So you're going to get a little bit more loot from that. The next thing that we want to focus on is champions. So there's a handful of nodes that we're using for the champions. So increased champion spawn rate. We also have the procs on killing the champion. We have the champions drop the woven echo, that's just pathing. We have increased champion spawn chance. And then this one, I don't know why this isn't being highlighted, but when you open the mage, you're going to get even more champions. We have this node with the loot lizard. Then here we have twinned champions, so you're going to get even more. And then the next thing that we have is memory amber. So there's only, I guess, the one node here. But we're also adding a bunch of stuff like this extra spider. This helps quite a bit for that. You're getting even more memory amber, so you do drop that. Another one is the possessed. So the possessed is going to give you even more memory amber. It does make the enemies quite strong, so if your build isn't that strong, maybe don't run this, but it will help with the sustaining of memory amber quite a bit. And then finally, the last thing that we care about here, because we are focusing on getting really good exalted items, we're adding additional density here with the rare enemies in dungeon. This gives you a lot of rares as well, so this goes pretty well with the previous notes. But the big thing here is we have enraged, and they drop runes and glyphs. This is going to give you pretty significant amount of runes of havoc. And then this one here, when you complete an objective, which we do quite often. Moving on to the strategy itself, it'll make sense why we're running this tree in a moment. So with all of the synergy around caches and stuff like that, we will be running the Unclaimed Trove. So the Unclaimed Trove is just a map that's basically full of caches. I didn't count them, but there's probably 10 to 15 of them, I would guess. The caches themselves actually give a lot of loot, and they're also proccing a bunch of different things as well, like they're proccing the lizards are proccing stuff. It's also going to be proccing the imprint, so you're getting a bunch of those as well. The problem with the Echo Unclaimed Trove is it costs 3,500 memory amber to buy. So that is one of the reasons why we're focusing on memory amber here. You want to add as many things that give the memory amber. So this strategy is also going to be similar to the previous one. If you haven't seen my past video on the farming strategy with false temples, go check that video out. It'll be in the description. But for this one, we're going to be doing something similar, but a little bit different, because we will need a lot of memory amber to make the strategy work. Anyway, moving over to the Echo Web. So similar to the false temple strategy, we will be using the Lostwood Folly. So you can put a folly down and it will add memory amber to all the surrounding echoes. It seems to be somewhere around 2000 memory amber, at least from the tests that I've done. You can get a little bit more than that when you have the like the spiders from the Weaver Tree. Those seem to add a bit. The possessed champions, I believe they add a little bit too. So you can get potentially a little over 2000 memory amber. So you're recouping roughly 2/3 of the cost of the Trove map. And the way that you're going to make up the difference is by inserting some of the false shrines. I did put together a spreadsheet on this. This is super rough numbers, but just really quick and dirty, running a few echoes and testing. This is where I'm at. So you can see the cost of memory amber, the amount that we're getting out of it, and then the net gain of each of the maps. For the troves, I was getting somewhere around 2000 per. This is probably closer to like 21 to 2200-ish. I'm being somewhat conservative here, but yeah, so we're at roughly a net loss of 1400 memory amber per trove. For the follies, you're paying 1000, and I was getting about 500. If you full clear, you're definitely going to get more, but I don't know if it's worth the time. I don't know if it even has as much, but yeah, you can consider full running the follies as well if you want, and then see it might help with your sustain a bit. And then finally, the shrine is the generator. This has a net surplus of memory amber because it only costs 750, and you're getting around 1500. I think this is actually closer to 2000 from the more recent tests that I've done. So I think this is roughly where we're at, and you can see what the chart looks here. So if you do the same strategy from the previous video I made, this is the different combinations. If you do ratios of troves to shrine, if you run 5 troves and 0 shrines, you're at a net loss of 7500, and so on. So you can see if you are doing 2 troves and 3 shrines, you should be roughly positive on memory amber. So I was being a little bit conservative before and alternating between 1 and 4 and 2 and 3. So this is what that would look like. So you have a folly with 4 shrines and a trove, followed by a folly with 3 shrines and 2 troves. But I think you can actually just do something like this, where you have folly, 3 shrines, and 2 troves. I think you can sustain this. So far, I think this has been pretty good. And yeah, you'll get a huge amount of loot out of all of the troves that you run, so they're definitely worth it. The shrines are just helping with the memory amber, as I said. Before I go, I want to quickly share how you will go about getting the really good exalted items, so like triple T7 exalt, for example. The way you're going to want to do that is with the Conquered Tower Echo. So this is an echo that's just a bunch of Nemesis, and Nemesis will empower your the items that are there, and this is probably the most reliable way to get multiple T7 items. So you see an item that's like a good type that you want. It has some high-ish tier affixes you empower, and they have a chance to go up all the way up to T7 potentially. And you'll just run this over and over until you get a really good base to work with that has good affixes. It has a lot of FP. Then you pop it in your imprints, and then you start doing the strategy. And then from there, you're pretty much good to go. To get started with this, you'll probably want to just do the memory amber farming. So you'll run the false temples with the Lostwood Follies, get a surplus of memory amber, then you just run a bunch of these Conquered Towers to get the exalted items that you need. Anyway, that's pretty much all I have for today. As always, I will catch you guys in the next one. Peace.